Another month, another episode of the new show. Welcome back. March peaked really hard on the first day with the Crunchyroll Funimation news, and then immediately calmed down right after that. Nothing even came close to it. And because it's such a massive development that it would double the length of the episode, I'm not really going to talk about it here. I'm going to make a separate video with my full thoughts on it. So you're not going to hear a single mention of Crunchyroll on here, and anything in relation to them you're probably going to find over there. So if you want to hear all of that, I'll link it on screen somewhere when it eventually comes out. With that out the way, let's start the anime recap. March was a pretty exciting month because one of the best licensing companies, Discotek Media, was teasing a huge event. Discotek, for the people who don't know, are a lesser-known anime company who's focused on preserving anime rather than getting the newest things releasing on streaming, either in old classics, childhood faves, and modern shows that just never got picked up by the usual biggies. But not only getting them and putting them on a disc, but making some of the best releases on the market with any extras they can find being put on it. Again, preserving is their focus, but also quality. And that's what makes Discotek Day always so exciting, since you don't know what they have up their sleeve. Just think of a Nintendo Direct, but with anime, so we're gonna go through the biggest announcements from it. Let's start with the classics. Kicking off the Direct was the 1980s Astro Boy run, getting a brand new remaster so it's easily the best the show's ever looked and will be uncut in the Japanese version, but will also have the English dub on it. The Blu-ray will be out next month, and if you're into the classics, Tezuka, or just HD cell animation, you may want to keep this on your radar. Symphogear is doing well, and it shows with them continuing to get the rest of the series with Season 3, GX, slated for later this year. This next one isn't a release, but an update that I'm including, so I have an excuse to tell you guys something you might have missed. The Gunbusters Blu-ray is making solid progress. Voices, scripts, and some recording for the dub are finished, but nowhere close to show anything. So yeah, Gunbusters is getting a brand new HD release with a dub. Again, huge, but I don't think a lot of people know this is happening, so reminder for some and breaking news for others. Let's get some quick license rescues out of the way. The first being Kakaishi, a 2006 52 episode anime that was originally licensed by Viz Media around 2010. This one's apparently a hidden gem that some of you may have seen on Adult Swim at the time. The designs are very much my style and it just looks beautiful. That's because they gave it the upscale treatment, so it's now in crisp HD for the first time. Some may be worried at the sound of an upscale since they can ruin image quality, but Discotek does the best on the market, and it showed with the brand new trailer they made. Next is the movie Fuse, Memoirs of the Hunter Girl, which is another gem that if you didn't know about it like me, that's because the previous licensor was NIS America, who never did anything with it after its initial home video release. No reprints, no standard editions, just let it fade into obscurity. Which is criminal since it looks beautiful, with the Edo setting, yes, soft art style, yes, and great character designs, yes. Apparently, it can get bloody, so heads up for those who are sensitive. Alright, back to the classics. Darkstalkers is getting put on Blu-ray with a brand new upscale from its original video masters. This one has tons of extras, as in trailers, promos, subtitle tracks, music tracks, and that's all before we even get to the art. Not only will it be the best it's ever looked, that applies to the art that's been around for years. The comparison I'm showing aren't even the best since the stream was done in 720p and YouTube had its own compression, so if you were thinking wow it looks so clean, the actual Blu-ray is gonna be a whole other level. More Project Dicko is coming with the sequel currently in the works, getting a brand new remaster from its film negatives for the first time anywhere in the world, with tons of extras just like the first one. I still need to check out the original release, but I'm happy that it's doing so well that they can take their time with the sequel to make it on the same level as the first. It wouldn't be Discotek without Lupin III, so let's bang these out rapid fire style. Episode 0, the origin story OVA, should be dropping this month, getting a new upscale. Part 1 getting the Blu-ray treatment with a new 1080p remaster straight from Japan with some cleaning up, making it the best version of the show with lots of extras. And finally, Prison of the Past, the most recent special, is coming later this year. All of these with a new dub with the fan favorite cast. Sergeant Frog Season 2 is on the way, meaning that the first release is doing really well. I'm scratching the surface with the amount of shows they announced, so if you want to see everything else, I'll link the Twitter thread below. But those weren't all the highlights because they saved the best for last with the original Digimon anime coming to Blu-ray. Yep, not SD on Blu-ray disc, actual 1080p Blu-ray. Which sounds impossible since nothing of it exists to give it a proper new scan, but is because of AstroRes, an AI upscaler they helped out with. That doesn't just smooth the image quality like other scalers, which can get rid of details like grain, color, and line work if done poorly. but actually keep those minute elements in mind when upscaling, retaining an authentic, very nice image quality. They originally made it for Project Eiko, but ended up shelving it when they found the original film negatives. But even then, the difference was night and day, looking like it was straight from the film, and this was when it was still in early testing. Even though that version of Eiko was scrapped, but for good reason, the tech was finished and ready to be used for other titles. Digimon technically being the third time. The second being their release of Memories, where parts of the film weren't in the best condition despite it being a 4K transfer, so they used Astro Res to fix those segments matching it to the rest of the film. And as someone who's seen the final product, you can't tell when it was used. Digimon is the first release where it was used for its entirety. The original masters were in bad shape, which makes the final product hit like a truck. The difference is insane even when comparing it to the 2016 Japanese Blu-ray. This is some of the best work they've ever done that the Japanese are gonna end up importing this like with some of their other releases. Especially since it's getting two, one with the dub and the other being the uncut Japanese version for the first time ever in the US. As someone who's dreamed of this forever, I am def gonna get both releases, and if you're a fan, you should too, since if it does well, they'll continue to get more of the franchise. The idea of Tamers and Frontier in HD is something I need to see become real. Again, there were loads more acquisitions they announced, so if you want to see everything, I'm gonna link the Twitter thread below, since there is other news we gotta get through. But yeah, Discotek is doing some of the best work in the industry, and you should def keep up with them. Man, March had more licensing news than I realized. Sadly, this won't compare to the prior, but it's still great being that most of Makoto Shinkai's films pre-year name have been acquired by G-Kids. Those being The Place Promised in Our Early Days, Children Who Chase Lost Voices, The Voices of a Distant Star, which is an OVA from early in his career, and the biggie being 5 centimeters per second. To be fair, they're all biggies since they were licensed by different companies now being unified under the same umbrella. Some important notes are that Lost Voices is on here, but not Garden of Words, meaning that Sentai didn't want to give it up, and I get why since that is a lesser known fave of his. The other that many are curious about is 5 centimeters per second, since G-Kids said they're all coming to Blu-ray with dubs, so the question now is which one? The movie had two produced, one in Texas and the other in LA, and both have never been available at the same time. The best case scenario is that both will be included on it, but it seems rather unlikely since anime preservation isn't really the MO for a lot of anime companies. It's also likely that one of the dubs is just in a weird legal spot, which is why they just won't get it because of the amount of hurdles to actually acquire it. But who knows, they may surprise everyone. Also, they only focus on movies, so it aligns really well to get all of his stuff since they'll get a lot more attention due to their smaller catalog. And overall, it's just easier for everyone to have all of his work in a single place rather than scattered across several companies. He's now a named director, and aside from Your Name, they're heavily associated with him since they put out his last film, Weathering With You, so it makes sense for them to lean into that, becoming the Makoto Shinkai people. This is more than anything confirming that they're gonna snag his upcoming movie. It's all in good hands, and it'll just make getting access to his work a lot easier, so I'm on board for this. That's enough licensing news for now, so let's switch over to the industry side. The first being on a sadder note, that of Mia Ikumi passing away, the artist of Tokyo Mew Mew, which would become her most well-known work that would inspire and influence generations of artists to this day. I still see people make fan art about it, and this was way before they announced the reboot. Her work is some of the most important stuff of the genre that even though she's gone, her influence will always be there even if you don't know it. The last thing she worked on was supervising the upcoming reboot, which I think is poetic that she saw her work be brought to life one more time, in a way showing there was still much interest in her manga 20 years after it finished, and making her final mark introducing Tokyo Mew Mew to a whole new generation. Rest in peace, Mia Ikumi, you will never be forgotten. Sorry for the sad news, but it wouldn't feel right acting like it didn't happen. The rest of the segment won't be as sad, I promise. Mappa was in the news last month because director Sung-Woo Park, the guy behind God of High School and Jujutsu Kaisen, has left the studio to form his own. E&H Production is the name, and it looks like some of the staff that worked with him at Mappa have migrated over. Before anyone says anything, I know he was a freelancer and not actually part of the studio, but he basically was when he worked on 2 shows and a movie. Him leaving doesn't rule out returning for the next season of Jujutsu Kaisen, but I wouldn't be surprised if he wanted to leave that behind to work on his own stuff. I'm super happy for him since he'll have loads more creative freedom since he owns the studio, but can also give him and his employees better working conditions. Which I'm gonna assume is one of the factors as to why he left, since it's an open secret how awful it is over there at MAPPA. If you're one of those guys who's sad that season 2 might not be as good as the first, reminder there are people who make it and they deserve to not die in making that entertainment. And if the only way for them to do that is to outright leave, that's what matters at the end of the day. Japan wasn't the only one making a big splash last month, because Adult Swim had a few things up their sleeve for the 25th anniversary of Toonami, which if anyone's been here long enough knows, I am always happy to cover, especially for the announcement of new anime. The first being Housing Complex C, a new original horror anime slated for later this year, with the other ones that I am the most excited about being new additions to Fooly Cooly, with grunge and shoegaze for 2023. The cool thing is that they're all being done by different studios, so Adult Swim is continuing to branch out and working with a wider range of teams. Shoegaze being a co-production with IG and Nut, and grunge being an all-new studio, hence the completely different approach being done in stylized 3D animation, which I'm really digging based on the teaser. Also, to the many that are surprised by my take, I never clicked with the original Fooly Cooly throughout my several tries watching it. I still like it and totally get what it's doing, but I don't see it on the high pedestal like everyone else. Which is why I think I ended up loving progressive and alternative. Because I didn't compare them to the original, I just saw them as anime doing their own weird and experimental thing. I just saw them as Fooly Cooly progressive and Fooly Cooly alternative, not as sequels to Fooly Cooly. I also don't think this is harming the original since they're completely removed from it. Fooly Cooly becoming this anthology playground is a cool workaround to make more crazy stuff like it without messing with the original, which I'm totally okay for. The worst thing they can do is fail, emphasizing how great the original is, and the best thing is get more people into the series, like me. Cause spoiler, that group of non-fans do exist. Either way, can't wait for all of these to drop when the time comes. This video is def getting dislikes. More legacy franchise news, but more of the giant robot variety. A new addition is coming to the Gundam series titled The Witch from Mercury, which is major since it's the first new TV series in 7 years. It also marks the first time there's gonna be a female lead for a TV series in the franchise. All of this comes from the Gundam conference, which also came with a trailer and visuals of the anime and her mobile suit. It was also announced that it would be getting a prequel that's gonna be its own story with new Gundams. Despite the lack of staff, I'm still super excited for it, since the last time we got a new TV series, it became one of my all-time faves. And just from the teaser, the visuals and music come off super strong. It'll be out in October for those like me who can't wait for it. The other big announcements from the conference were that the online shooter will be getting a worldwide release later this year, which is great, really excited for it. And the last one that pains me falls into the next section for the news, being the Gundam Metaverse. I hope to one day make a news video without No Fun Today, and we were almost there this month, we were so close. They are spending $130 million on this, incorporating games, videos, and live music, so yeah, the Metaverse. Its main purpose is to increase revenue, hence why you'll be able to buy models and merch through it to be shipped to your home. Which just seems unnecessary since you can already do that without the multi-million-dollar metaverse. And while it's currently based on physical goods, the natural next source of revenue is super obvious. The biggest appeal of NFTs are these digital spaces, so them making some based on their biggest franchise is a no-brainer. But I hope they prove me wrong. I highly doubt it though. Time for some fun news stories. Since anime gets thrown to the wayside the moment a new season starts, this next one is gonna feel really outdated even though it was just a few weeks ago. Y'all remember Dress Up Darling, the most beloved show of the last season? Well, that also extended to the creator Shinichi Fukuda, who couldn't get over the adaptation of her manga. So much so that when she got the first 2 episodes, she watched them on loop for 13 hours. She talked about it in her first ever interview and even went into more detail. It's a wholesome time with a lot of fun anecdotes. Like how she pre-ordered the anime immediately, but to get the bonus of a lewdly drawn Dakimakura of Marine, which is just base as hell. She apparently just wanted as many Dakis of Marine that she can get, which is amazing. One of her dreams was to get an anime based on one of her works, which makes sense her immense feelings for the anime. Her own words being, "I had never been happier in my life as a manga artist." There's more to the interview, so I'll link it below for those who want the full deep dive. Announcement time before the wrap up as always. Let's get through these. Not a lot of new seasons, just a bunch of originals. Jobless Reincarnation Season 2 is on the way, as well as the return of one of the best anime of the last decade. That's right, you guessed it, Pop Team Epic. This is not a joke, it's unironically one of my fave anime, and this made me lose my mind. Give it to me. This next one's weird because it doesn't fall into neither category. Ruby is getting an anime by Shaft.
All I saw was the trailer. Nope. Sold. No.
It's also weird because it's Ruby.
No.
Alright, let's get back to the good stuff. It's a lot of originals, so buckle in. New Science Saru anime, Yuri Deko, got its first trailer, giving us our first look at the new series. Keeping the great flat colorful style we expect from them, and with Inu-Oh later this year, looking like it's gonna be a very good time for fans of the studio. By the way, that also got a new trailer for those who want a different flavor of Science Saru. Healer Girl by Studio 3 Hertz is out by the time of this video. Looks cute, and the concept seems to be leaning into that. Do It Yourself by Studio Pine Jam is scheduled for later this year, and while I know nothing about it, just looks like a slice of life about fixing stuff. Okay, yeah, I'm sold. The art style is very much my jam. I'm a sucker for the really soft, expressive look that's just leaning into the medium. Got a good feeling about this one since it's super unique. Wit's Vampire in the Garden got a new trailer that is really brutal, so I won't show anything to ruin the nice mood. Magical Girls Destroyers by Burry Animation got announced. No release info on it, but very much appeals to the edgelord in me based on the visuals. Studio being the ones behind the new Black Rock Shooter anime, which is looking great, and that harem anime with the long name I refuse to say. New anime from the writer of Saikano and the artist of Dead Alive came out of nowhere. This knows who it's appealing to, and if that's you gotta wait till July to see Engage Kiss. Another one going for the same group, Love Flops, got announced but with very little info. All we know is it's later this year. Onipon has started airing by the time this is out. A dumb cute show about Onis who help humans by pretty much taking jobs. And while I know it looks like whatever, it's done by Wit Studio. Yeah, Attack on Titan, Villain Saga, and Great Pretender, those guys. Very left field, and just by what's out, it already looks like they aren't skimping out on the animation. Buchigere, a Samurai Edo themed anime with a dope, soft, and loose art style. Coming from Geno Studio and will be out in July. All their trailers will be linked below. I think that's it. There might be a few originals I missed, but I want to get this section done. Okay, let's wrap this up on a nice note, as always. To clean the palette of the awful Rent a Girlfriend crowdfund, let's talk about an actual good one. Yatogame-chan, a really small miniseries, recently did one for its upcoming 4th season. But unlike big shows that just use it for ads, they actually needed to cover production costs, advertising, promotion, and of course merch. The station that's airing it wanting to produce it despite it being difficult, but still making the most out of its very small budget. It's clearly made by fans for fans of the series, hence why they lean so heavily to them to help out. Which they very much did. The campaign hitting its 300,000 yen goal in less than a day, concluding with 2,300,000 yen. A little over $20,000. It's also just really sweet since you can tell they really wanted to make the anime even though it's super niche. It's just great that fans helped them get a much smoother experience that they were worried was gonna be compromised. They made way more than they planned, but I can tell it's in good hands and that they're gonna use it to give back to the fans like they did for them. If you guys want to check out the show to support them, each episode is 3 minutes, so despite it having 3 seasons, it's a pretty short commitment. And that's a wrap for the anime recap. What were your fave stories? Which original anime are you interested in? Do you hate my take on Fooly Cooly? You probably do. Leave all your thoughts below, cause I love to read them. As always, bye guys, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.